Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Smart Divorce Podcast. And if you're on YouTube, you'll see that I feel like I'm being eaten alive by a Triffid next to me, because I'm in our Manchester office today. So I do look like cross between I'm in a sauna and a greenhouse. But I am very pleased to be joined today by the lovely Helen Stuart, who's come to talk to me today about therapy and her practice, which is called Now You're Talking. Welcome, Helen. It's lovely to see you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And my pleasure. It's brilliant to have you join us today. Do you want to tell us a bit about how you started in therapy and how Now You're Talking came about?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for the very nice introduction. My name's Helen Stuart. I am the managing director of Now You're Talking. So we provide therapy for individuals, couples, children, and young people. So we're here to make therapy safer, more accessible, more simple, and effectively more human. And what I mean by that is that when I wanted to access therapy when I was younger, I found it very confusing, wasn't sure where it was that I needed to go. There are lots of places and people that say that they're a counselor or a therapist, and really difficult to know who's the best person to talk to. So our platform connects you with fully qualified, fully vetted counselors who you can trust and you can book on our platform, and it's all done safely and securely on that platform. We also partner with businesses to help reduce absenteeism, to tackle people that have been off work for a long time and give them some support around getting back into the workplace. And lastly, but absolutely not least, we are a profit with purpose organisation, which means 66% of our profits that we make are fed back into our parent charity, which is TLC, Talk, Listen, Change, which is based in Manchester.
Wow, amazing, amazing. So much that you've got going on. And we're going to do a series of these podcasts talking about different aspects of the therapy that you do and about the different people that you work with. Um, and it's all relating to co-parenting and to parents when their children are going through divorce. So we're going to start off today, and today's focus is very much going to be about children. So lots of parents panic when they separate and they think that it's going to have a massive impact on the children. Is that something that you see?
Yeah, so it really varies. And I think from a personal perspective on this, so my parents separated when I was 9 years old. So I feel very passionate about this in terms of that support that we're able to give children and young people. Um, Obviously, when you are going through a breakup and you go through a separation, there is so much emotion going on for the parents, and it's very, very complex. And I think that trying to then adding the layer of navigating kind of the children through that is a lot. And I think that so my previous work, so I've did a lot of work around children, young people who were experiencing mental health issues, and these had stemmed from lots of different problems. But what we did see is that when there had been a relationship breakdown, whether that had resulted in a divorce or separation, if that hadn't been managed in a way where the child felt safe to kind of talk about how they were feeling, we did see that manifest into to other issues. And now children are quite, they can mask sort of how they're feeling quite well sometimes, and it might come out in different ways. So, it might be like, oh, they're absolutely fine. I don't feel like it has affected them. Actually, their behavior in school's not great. They've fallen out with loads of friends at school. It can kind of manifest in different ways. So I think it's, and I think this is it's really hard. And I think what my first and foremost thing is actually going through a breakup, going through a divorce is really, really difficult. And it's about making sure that we are keep in touch with kind of what's going on with the children as well, and not forget that they're involved in all of this, which I absolutely know that people don't do. But I think when there's lots of other stuff going on, you can quickly get that can kind of get swept into it all as well.
No, I think you're absolutely right there. And my parents divorced when I was 12, so similar thing. And I think, I mean, I'm a lot older than you. It was in a time when therapy was something that happened in America, and it just wasn't like no normal people in the UK just didn't go and get therapy. But I think it's a useful tool, and I think and could have massively helped. What if we're talking to parents who are going through divorce or going through a relationship breakdown, and what should they be looking for in terms of signs from their children that they're not coping as well as we perhaps think? So you mentioned behavior in school. Are there other things that might give that away, that they perhaps need some extra help?
Yeah, I think becoming very withdrawn. I think there's kind of like the more obvious ones is obviously becoming more withdrawn. I think with children, there is a lot of internal blame that goes on when parents divorce, and I know myself that that is something that I massively internalized. And even at 9 years old, I was like, well, this must be something that I've done. And I think if that's not verbalized and vocalized, that can quickly spiral. So I think it's from the offset is being really quite open, and that can make, as a parent, can make you feel really vulnerable at an already really vulnerable time, because you're having to say, let's be open about this, let's talk about it. And as hard as that might feel, actually, like, it will hopefully help in the long run that you kind of had those conversations early on. I think, again, where we are in society, you have social media, and depending on kind of the age of your children, I don't think there is a perfect age to go through a divorce in terms of children. I think, it happens at any age, and everyone will be affected differently. I think kind of having an eye on what maybe might be playing out on social media and things like that, because unfortunately with social media there is a whole host of information online, and if they feel like can't get the answers from you, or they can't get that information from you, they might turn to other sources. So it's kind of keeping an eye on all of those aspects, which is really hard. And I think I keep kind of honing in on this point that when you are going through this, absolutely there is so much going on. But if we can try and have really open and honest conversations right from the beginning, and kind of create a safe space where children can feel that they can talk about kind of how they're feeling about it, and that emotion or how they're feeling might feel so uncomfortable for you. They might feel angry about it, they might be really sad about it. And I think that when you're going through something, it's really easy to kind of internalize that, take that blame, all those kind of things. But I think as much as you can, kind of stay in a place where you're like, I'm just hearing and I'm just listening how they're feeling, rather than having to say, I know this is all my fault. Which is where therapy can really help try and navigate some of those feelings.
Yeah, absolutely. Eh, and so if you've spotted some of those things, some of the behaviors that you've suggested might be recognizable, so they've become very withdrawn, misbehaving at school, trying to get your attention, all those sorts of things that are possible. How might you introduce the possibility of them talking to somebody like you? How can they talk to their children? And is it age specific? Like, would you have a different way of speaking to, I mean, presumably you would, younger children as opposed to young people?
Yeah. So there's lots of different modalities in terms of different therapies that you can have for different ages. You know, for a child as young as 5, for example, you're not going to have the same intervention for a child at the age of 12.
Sure.
Um, I think it's about introducing the idea that they can talk to somebody who's, because I think that we often heavily rely on our support network and that circle of support, which is great and we absolutely should do. But sometimes we need um, I don't really like to call it like a professional as such, but I mean they are professionals, but somebody that can kind of help navigate some of those emotions and flip it, maybe help you see it from a different point of view, but doesn't come from any particular side. I think that
A
even as a
neutral, isn't it?
parent,
It's a neutral third party that,
absolutely. And I think that even as a parent, if you think you can kind of, you absolutely know your child best and you can talk to them, but sometimes they just need someone that's not going to come from any sort of position. So bringing that up in conversation, I'm quite hopeful in terms of the direction we're going as a society that counselling and therapy is becoming more normalised. And I would say definitely sort of around the pandemic and the young people that have gone through the pandemic are probably more open to it than anybody else. Um, but I think it's about, again, doing that process together, not just saying to your child, you're going to see this person and this is how it's going to be. Talking, having a conversation and saying, what do you think about speaking to somebody? One of the things that we do is that we have pictures of all of our counselors and our therapists on our site, because there is something about seeing an image of somebody and thinking, okay, well, that's the person I'm going to speak to. And then what we also do is we arrange, we have like a 15-minute free call so you can have a conversation to see, because I'm a massive believer in, I wouldn't choose who you should work with or who your friends should be, because
yeah.
you know yourself best. So it's about trying to choose someone who you know you're going to get the best from. And when you look at kind of the research, is that actually that therapeutic journey is so important. And actually, if you have a really strong relationship with your therapist, your counselor, actually you are more likely to engage, you are more likely to be able to embark on that journey and really take that seriously and make some changes if that's what you want to do. Um, so definitely would do that process together. Children often feel like they're having things done to them all the time. And, when you're in the midst of going through something as complex as divorce, this could be another extra layer of, well, you're just telling me to do this. So I think involving them in the process, if they're old enough to be able to go through that process with you, and you know, almost kind of empowering them that they can be the expert in this and you're following their lead and you're just kind of trying to lead them and guide them. It is a hard space to be in, but I would say that that is where we see the most positive change, is when children have felt like they've been part of that decision.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. How does I know, imagine there's a kind of hard line, but how does the therapy change for a child as opposed to a teen? I mean, let's start with younger children, so like primary school age, I guess. And
Yeah.
even that is quite a broad range, isn't it? But so primary school age, perhaps younger primary school, what could they expect? How does therapy work for them?
So a lot of the time it's through art therapy and play therapy. So it's about trying to work with a young child to express their emotions in a way that feels quite safe. We can't expect really young children to be able to articulate how exactly they're feeling. So doing this through drawings, doing this through play. We had a young girl a couple of years ago in from the charity work that we did, and she would always draw suns. Loved drawing suns, but she always would put a sad face in them. And that was kind of her way of trying to explain and express that she was feeling really sad, although kind of things, I think how she was trying to say is that things felt, sometimes people felt good, but she still felt sad. Now, a child's not going to be able to articulate that in words, but being able to use that, through drawing and even through play as well. Even I've got a 4-year-old, and when he's sad, and I'm trying to say to him, what you feeling sad about? Sometimes they're just so worked up and they can't tell you, and it's frustrating as a parent. You're like, I just want to know what's wrong. But yeah, I think it's about understanding that they'll have a different way of communicating that, and that's where a counselor or a therapist can bring that really unique skill set to be able to work with that child and help them kind of work through some of those complex emotions.
That's amazing. It's brilliant to know that there is something available even for even for little children who can't necessarily sit and tell you what's wrong. And then
Yeah.
for older children, perhaps secondary school age, what does it start to look like for them?
So that is more really again led by the child, but that would be more sort of take form in kind of talking therapy, so having a conversation. But really just trying to help them unpick kind of how they're feeling. A lot, we talk all the time about teenagers and how angry they are and they're going through, but actually that's just them trying to express emotion in a way that feels safe to them. A lot of young boys, the only emotion that feels kind of valid for a boy is anger. So that's why they'll act out in anger because that feels like the most accepted way to behave. So it's about trying to work that through. So it doesn't feel overly onerous in terms of tell me how you feel and what it's like. I think that when you see, counseling and therapy in films and, TV programs, it feels
Yeah.
very direct and
Lie on the
there
couch. Tell me how you're feeling.
it's just and even when I went to study, I did my degree, even I think I had this like already pre-concept of what it would be like, and it just actually just isn't like that. But it's very much about being client led and working with that young person. And I think as well is that it takes time. This isn't like you go for 2 sessions and your child all of a sudden knows exactly how to talk and has got loads of coping mechanisms all of a sudden. It's not how it works. Like it is a commitment that you have to work through. But you do see some massive differences with the children that we work with.
I guess that's a good point. So, what outcomes are you hoping for or expecting as a
Mm,
result of your children having? Because the outcomes a parent might be expecting might be different to what you
yeah,
think is realistic. It's not a magic wand, but
yeah.
what outcomes would you expect that child or person to have?
Yeah, it's really variable, I think, because obviously it depends, if a child has come with a very specific traumatic situation, it might be kind of talking through that. If a child is dealing with a separation or divorce with their parents, it might be that they have really strong emotions that they feel like they blame one parent over the other. And actually, the outcome of that therapy would be to try and unpick and understand where that was coming from. And try and move them to a place where they could not, they might still feel like that, and you can't change how somebody feels about something, but move them to a place where they can talk through it, where they're not getting really angry about it, or they're not sort of acting out and things like that. But again, that is a process. I think everybody's, and again, parents' expectations of what therapy will do is exactly what you've just said, is that it's a magic wand, it's going to fix everything. But ultimately, it is a process that people have to go through. And it's someone that can help you navigate you through some of the most difficult times. Or on the flip side, for me, for example, therapy is more like a maintenance thing for me. So I just go once a month and it's just a chance to check in, see how I am. So there's a really broad way that people can use it. And I think the more we kind of shift our perspective that actually it's not necessarily for crisis point all the time, to actually this is an ongoing thing that's going to support me and or my children or whoever. I think that's the shift that we need to try and make.
Yeah, it's a big shift, isn't it, from where we are now to
Mm,
I need therapy. Well, why are you still having therapy? Well, because I want to carry on feeling okay.
yes, yeah,
And
yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's a big shift, isn't it? Is there are there any children or is there any circumstance in which therapy would not be appropriate?
I think if you've got children who might be, have underlying additional needs, or they might be going through, diagnosis, that, we know there are, well, I think probably, I'm not sure the figure of like thousands of children that are on waiting lists, to be diagnosed for, um, neurodiverse issues and things like that. And So it might not be appropriate if they're on a certain pathway and you're waiting for certain support. However, we know that those pathways often are 2 years of waiting. And if you're desperate for support, I would always say reach out, have a conversation. I think that we are great at saying when we don't think this is going to be helpful. We're not about trying to take money off people if we don't think this is going to be the right support for you. We're genuinely about people first. And I think that trying to find someone who will be really honest and say, I'm not sure this is the right time for you to embark on this, is what we pride ourselves on. But equally, there are times where that could really complement that child if they're on a waiting list and they need some support. So I would say it's really individual and sort of case by case. And if people are ever unsure, just have a conversation, because we'll always try and help. And if we can't help, we will try and see if there is anyone else that could help.
Perfect. That's brilliant. And the big question, because this is always the question when anybody's thinking about involving other professionals, divorce and separation is massively expensive. There are lots and lots of professionals who specialize in doing brilliant work in divorce, and you could quite easily have all of them if you had enough money. So
Yeah.
And I guess a lot of people, when they're going through divorce, their focus is on the children, and they do want to be child-centered in their divorce, and want to ensure that they come out of it in as good a way as possible, and to be resilient and to be able to cope and not to have any trauma impacted by the divorce affecting their future lives. So I think it probably is something lots of people want to prioritize, but don't maybe ask the questions, don't think about child therapy because they feel that the cost is going to be absolutely enormous. I guess just some kind of guidelines as to what level we're looking at and for how long the child is likely to need quite comprehensive therapy would be useful.
So we've got our children and young people's therapists, and they sort of start around the £40 an hour mark. So it can't be free, but also we don't want to charge like astronomical prices for it. We do various different options. So, we would always say that a block of 6 sessions is probably a really good place to start. But if you book 6 sessions with us, there are like various different things we could do. So, if you block book 6, you can get one free because we can take one off for you, things like that. And we do run various like different discounts and stuff as well. So I think I would say is that absolutely understand that and also it's not the divorce, going through a divorce is one thing, but we also know that there's a cost of living crisis at the moment. Like it's really hard for lots of people. So again, kind of reach out to us, have a conversation, and if it's not something we can help you with, we can point you in the direction of somebody else. What I would say is that what's hard at the moment is that a lot of the sort of third sector organisations that do provide free of charge counselling is that they're really stretched, and that the waiting list for those services are really high. But we will absolutely try and see if there's anything we can do. I think for me, it's like at the heart of what I do. So I have spent my entire career working with children, young people, adults that have, facing a whole different host of circumstances. And I have fought all my career to try and get them the support that they need. Hence why now I'm running an organisation that puts the profit back into those services, because my ideal world would be that I am able to fund enough services back into the charity to create more accessible services to people. So it's one of those where I get it from absolutely both sides. So, if you're looking for someone that would understand and, know kind of where you're coming from, then, I'm not the type of person that's not kind of, I'm always happy to kind of have a chat with people because I think it's really important. And at a time where you're going through so much, like actually just having a listening ear of someone that will just be really honest and say, you know what, you can do this, this, and this, or, you can have this. I think that's really important. And I'm always, I think at my core is wanting to help people. That's what I want to do. And all of our therapists that we have on the platform, we're all doing what we do because we want to help more people. And ultimately, that is our why of why we're doing it.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. I mean, if I think about, that's 6 sessions that a child could have with a child focused therapist for the same price as 1 hour of a solicitor's time. That's got to be
Yeah,
worth its while. The way you talk about it so passionately, it's absolutely amazing. Um,
thank
Fantastic
you.
work. I've not spoken to anybody who's been a child therapist yet on the podcast, and I've wanted to for quite some time. So massively appreciate you coming in to talk to us today. Can you tell us where people can look you up, how they can get hold of your services? We will put it in the show notes, but let us know right now where they can find
Yeah.
you.
So you can go to our website, which is www.nowyourtalkingtherapy.co.uk. We are also on Facebook. We are on Instagram. So if you prefer to send a message via those channels, please feel free and someone will get back to you. We've also got a email address on our website. So if you do just want to arrange a chat, you can do. Or if you want to book a free call with one of our therapists as an introductory call, you just go onto our website, choose who you want to work with, and book that in for either yourself or your child.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, just one quick question that I forgot to ask. The children, I have assumed throughout our conversations that they're coming to talk to a therapist one on one. So mum or dad might wait in a waiting room, but they're coming in directly with the therapist. Mum and dad aren't listening into what's being said, and it stays confidential with the therapist. Have I got that right?
You absolutely have got that right. Yes, that is right. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to check in on that because I think that's really important for any age child that they know
Hmm.
that they can be open and honest, and that's never
Yeah.
be fed back to the parents that this is between them and the person they're talking to, and they can have
And
confidence.
And that's a real key element of it, that it is a really safe space. The only time that we would have to ever break that confidentiality, which is the same with adult therapy, if that they were at harm or they were going to harm somebody else. But yeah, it is a really safe and confidential space, and it's not a place where they feed back to mum and dad and go, "Oh, by the way, they said this or that." So yeah, absolutely right.
Amazing. That's fantastic. Thank you, Helen, so much. And we
Thank
will see you
you.
next time where we're going to talk about therapy for parents who are going through divorce. So thank you so much, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thanks so much.